The 8th round of the iGP Manager AOR League was in Great Britain for the newest race on the calendar, and starting on pole position for his home race was championship contender Peter Mann, with his rival Nicholas Morales starting from way down in P12, although moving himself up to P8 on the opening lap. By the end of lap 5, we had already seen one of the super soft runners come into the pits as Nicholas Pressey switched to a set of softs, and one lap later the leader was into the pits as well too. Thompson followed Mann into the pits, and while Thompson opted for the softs, a set of mediums went on the car for Peter Mann. End of lap 9, and the new race leader Cesar Navarro was into the pits, most likely on a two-stop strategy using only soft tires. He was followed into the pit lane by almost half of the grid, as it looked like the majority of teams would be running the same strategy. The only soft runners who stayed out were Morales, Cordier, and Thomas. Lap 12, and Morales was on the move, gaining a position on Cabanes and moving himself into 5th position. The only cars ahead of him at this stage were two of the teams who started on super softs, the one stopping Coleman, and also Cesar Navarro, who had pit one lap earlier than Morales. At the end of lap 15, we saw Mann and Pressey into the pits for their second and presumably final stops of the race, both drivers opting for the mediums this time and exiting in P11 and P15 respectively. Once again, the majority of the field all pit at the same time, as 8 cars were in for their final stop at the end of lap 18, just leaving an 8-lap stint remaining until the end of the race. And as with the first round of stops, Morales continued for another lap. One lap later, and Morales was into the pits, followed by Cordier, both drivers opting for the softs and a shorter 7-lap stint to finish their race. By lap 21, it became apparent that the top 3 were set to close up to each other, as Peter Mann had the oldest tires and the least amount of boost, while Morales in 3rd had the freshest tires and the most boost still available out of the podium runners. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th position was really heating up, as the hard runner of Coleman did his best to keep the soft runners behind him, eventually slipping down to 8th on lap 22. Lap 24, and Morales deployed some boost, and with some DRS was able to take 2nd position from Cesar Navarro. However, Cesar was still right behind and now had significantly more boost remaining. As the final lap started, Peter Mann used the rest of his boost to defend from the soft runners behind him before they got into the DRS zone, while Cesar was now in prime position to retake the 2nd place position he once had, and between the boost and DRS, he just about pipped Morales at the end of the DRS straight. With an over 1.5 second gap down to the cars behind and no DRS zones remaining, it was Peter Mann who claimed victory at his home race, with Cesar Navarro claiming 2nd narrowly ahead of Nicholas Morales, and Cabanes barely staying ahead of Cordier for P4. In the championship standings, Peter Mann takes the lead for the first time since Spain, with Morales now 10 points behind in the championship and Carrasco another 15 points adrift. The only movement this week came from the Frenchman, as Johan Dimier slips behind Jose Navarro and Nicholas Pressey, and after a top 5 finish, Valentin Cordier moves ahead of his compatriot Nicholas Coleman after only 3 races in the league.